Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our closure event from this bootcamp of this Climate Financial Accelerator CFA Colombia. Would like to greet all of our attendees that are joining us online through YouTube and online. This is the third section from CFA that started out last year with a convening for the new climate initiatives where some projects were selected and we are going to get to know about them later today. These projects represent an opportunity in order to move forward in the climate agenda from Colombia. Throughout today's session, we're going to have the participation of different experts and high-level experts who are going to tackle on some key issues in order to understand the importance of the implementations of such initiative in our country. We hope that today's session is going to help you out to better understand what the importance of these initiatives is, as well as the importance of implementing these kind of initiatives in the country. In order to get started, I would like to welcome Mrs. Isabel Martinez, Vice President of Sustainability in Banco de Bogotá, Colombia. Representatives of the sector and also participants of this Climate Finance Accelerator and others. Please be welcome to Banco de Bogotá. Humankind is now facing one of the most important challenges in today's world, and the loss of biodiversity. The increase in temperatures and the different changes in our environment is taking us to actually rethink the way we interact and the way we understand our ecosystems. According to the World Bank data, there are some important actions that we need to undertake in order to see what's going to happen in 2050, and it will require investments of 2.5 trillion in order to tackle the situations that we have today. So that's why we need to invest $2 million a year. So that means that we need to actually implement this amount that we are investing today 5 times, and so we can better have a better investment, and this has to do with the private sector. That's why it is key to embed or to articulate all the public and private efforts in order to close the gap that we have nowadays and to help in order to move towards to a cleaner and more sustainable energy with more sustainable job positions. The funding of this mitigation of the climate change in the country represent an investment between 0.7 and 1.2% of the annual GDP, whereas the adaptation measures will require an additional investment of 1.5 and 1.8 of our GDP. The investment of everything that we do in our country have significantly increased. So between 2011 and 2021, 23.5 billion were mobilized in order to adapt to the climate change, and only in the year 2023, Asobancaria estimated the green portfolio of the country in 2.5 trillion pesos. According to these projections of the forecast, it is going to increase to 40 billion and 140 trillion for next year in order to respond to the climate response that we need to have in the country. From Banco de Bogotá, we are committed to work on the strategy for sustainable development and transition energy projects in order to decarbonize our economy and to better help our country in categories such as circular economy, sustainable transport, energetic sufficiency, and some other aspects. That's why we shout out to this important role that the Climate Finance Accelerator plays today, because it is not only supporting what is happening today in terms of strengthening the capacities of different initiatives in order to have low carbon emission initiatives, but it also facilitates the access to capital through different capital schemes in order for them to be feasible, and so it is possible for the country to achieve the climate objectives. In the first 2 phases, this accelerator impacted many different regions throughout the country, and we managed to mobilize 25 million. And today we're going to get to know firsthand the proposals of 6 participants that are working in different sectors, but they all have in common the innovation in the supply chain with a very important level of commitment in order to protect the fauna, flora, and all the different resources as well as the communities where these projects took place. In Banco de Bogota, we have set the path for the green funding by supporting some different projects that are going to help us out to mitigate the climate impact by using different green or through the implementation of different green initiatives using different economic schemes. And in the last 3 years, we have managed to have a green portfolio of 3.5 trillion Colombian pesos that have been allocated to different sectors with the ultimate goal to leverage this strategic financial support. In 2023, we produced the first subordinated sustainable bond in the international market that amounted to $230 million. With the resources that we mobilize, we want to undertake or we want to work on different aspects that are going to contribute to the 2030 agenda. As of today, we continue to work with different destinations and we continue to work in different sectors that have to do with the restoration of biodiversity in our country that we hope it is going to be a key issue in the public and private agenda. There's still a lot to be done and there's still a lot of partnerships to be entered into, such as the one that we have entered into with the Climate Finance Accelerator, because we know that this is an important opportunity in order to tackle this issue. That's why I'd like to put all of our services to your hand, to your service, in order to help to contribute to the national stated objectives as well as to achieving the sustainable development goals that were stated by the United Nations. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Isabel, for your opening remarks. And I would like to welcome to stage Mr. Tim Hemmings, Minister of the United Kingdom Embassy in Colombia. Thank you very much, and welcome to this very important event. I know it is very early in the morning, but I'm British, so that's why it's not that early for me. But well, I know it's difficult for Colombians, but I'm deeply honored. I'd like to say that I'm very honored to be part of such an important event. My role is a simple one. I just wanted to thank Isabel Martinez and Banco de Bogota, not only because they are hosting this event, but also because of such an important collaboration that they have provided us with in such an important issues like the one that we're going to be discussing today. And I'd also like to thank the National Development Plan and the Colombian government, because the collaboration that we have with you in this sector, it is a key. And just a final remark for our partners. Coopers, muchísimas gracias por su colaboración en esta área. And the Environment Group, this is an important thing that we need to do in order to fight climate change, just like Isabel just mentioned. For us in the United Kingdom, and especially for the British Embassy here in Colombia, this fight that we have against climate change is the most important thing that we have as of now. Our cooperation is very important. This aspect that has to do with innovation, collaboration, the corporate sector, the private sector, the academic sector, and the government is something that is very, very important to us. And this is a part of the partnership that we have for the UK-Colombia partnership for the sustainability. And within this scope, we want to help the Colombian government to prevent deforestation and also to help the Colombian government with the energy transition that they need to have. And not only Colombia, but every single country around the world. And we also want to support the peace process that is also committed to tackle the climate change here in Colombia. But today we're here to celebrate the cooperation between our governments, the United Kingdom and Colombia's government, and also we want to engage the private sector and the academic sector as well, because that's what we need if we want to achieve some changes and That's the way that we're going to protect our forest, and we need to have that collaboration in place and in different innovative initiatives in order to do this. And that's what we're doing here with the CFA, because we need the support of the financial sector. And right now we have 4 Colombian ministers in London in order to work with the sustainable objectives, as to see how this green funding can help such an important agenda. So the projects that we are going to analyze today are going to be very important in the way that on how we are going to innovate in order to switch this debate that we have nowadays. So I have a very important takeaway for you today, which is count on us. And because we are working hand in hand with this Climate Finance Club Accelerator, we've been working with it for the last 5 years, and we're going to be listening to about 6 of them, but we're going to launch a second phase to it that is going to be launched next year. So please count on us. We want to keep on collaborating with you. We want to keep on learning from you, and we want to keep on working with you. So please count on us, because this is very important to all of us, to our planet. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your remarks, Mr. Hemmings. Now I would like to welcome to stage Mr. Ian, who is the president of coming from the PwC from the UK. Mr. Midwell, the floor is yours.
Okay, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Firstly, some thank yous to Banco de Bogotá for hosting us today, as well as the other financial participants who've hosted us over the course of the 2 days. For British Embassy here in Colombia for their continued support to the program, and to all of you from the finance community here in Colombia for engaging in the program and supporting its objectives. Hopefully you can hear me. I'm just looking for my translator.
Bueno, buenos días, está diciendo, gracias a todos por estar acá, está muy contento definitivamente de poder compartir este espacio con ustedes, gracias al Banco de Bogotá, por supuesto, y bueno, para este evento vamos a tener traducción desde este punto pues en consecutiva.
So my name is Ian Milborough. I'm a partner at PwC in London, and it's been my privilege to lead the Climate Finance Accelerator since its inception back in 2017.
Ok, mi nombre es Ian, como ya mencionaba anteriormente, soy un aliado que viene desde Inglaterra y pues tengo un papel importante en lo que es el programa de aceleración financiera climática.
And firstly, an apology for addressing you in English. I was hoping to bring my daughter Isabel to make the presentation on my behalf, as she is a fluent Spanish speaker.
Ok, sí. Perdone por el estar aquí de pronto haciendo la intervención en inglés. Iba a traer a Isabel, que era la mejor que pudiera hablar en español para esta presentación, entonces perdón por hablar en inglés.
But hopefully we can work it out.
Pero igual lo vamos a lograr.
So this morning I just wanted to give you a bit of the macro context to the CFA and why it's important, and share some reflections given all the projects I do in climate finance around the world.
Okay, en este momento voy a darles un contexto macro acerca de lo que estamos haciendo con la CFA y por qué es importante cada una de las cosas que estamos haciendo.
Perhaps someone could manually advance the slides. Okay. So, I'm an evangelist for climate, but I know that's not important in a room full of bankers.
Okay, voy a hablar acerca de pues el impacto climático y muchas veces de pronto esto no es importante para muchos de los banqueros.
What makes a difference is that we understand numbers, risk profiles, and return profiles.
Pero lo importante acá es que estamos entendiendo cada uno de los puntos que debemos entender para poder entender este fenómeno.
So I want to show you a couple of data points about how this agenda is moving in terms of deployment of capital.
Entonces les voy a mostrar cómo está organizada la agenda y algunos números que son importantes dentro de la presentación.
So you'll remember that the Paris Agreement pledged to mobilize $100 billion towards climate finance every year.
Ok, como ustedes ya saben, hay una importante cantidad de dinero, de dólares que se están moviendo anualmente para los temas climáticos.
And sadly, progress has been a bit slow against that objective.
Y de pronto el progreso ha sido un poco lento hacia el objetivo, hacia donde queremos llegar.
We are getting there, but not as fast as we need to be.
Estamos lográndolo, pero no tan rápido como quisiéramos hacerlo.
So this chart shows you, for the best year we have data, about $1.3 trillion was mobilized in support of climate finance.
Como pueden ver aquí en la gráfica, tenemos alrededor de 1.300 millones de dólares que se están moviendo alrededor de los temas climáticos.
But what you see here on the right of the chart is what the IEA and others estimate we need to be mobilizing if we are to get on that 1.5-degree decarbonization pathway.
Y lo que están viendo al lado derecho del cuadro es las cifras que deberíamos estar manejando para poder tener un balance adecuado.
And if you look, climate finance flows only really represent around 1% of global GDP.
Como ustedes pueden ver, el financiamiento de todo lo que tiene que ver con los temas climáticos representa el 1% del Producto Interno Bruto.
And in particular, finance to the least developed countries represents a tiny amount.
Ok, como pueden ver, la lista de países que están involucrados es muy pequeña.
So the first point is that many of the countries most affected by climate change are not getting the investment.
El punto importante aquí es que la mayoría de países que están afectados, obviamente, por el cambio climático, no están involucrados acá.
So we need acceleration.
Entonces necesitamos aceleración. Pero
there is some good news.
hay buenas noticias.
This is the latest data showing where that investment has been deployed by end user segment. Okay. So,
Okay.
is it still good? Okay. So, quick summary, where is the money going? It's going into renewable energy, it's going into transportation, and in some cases it's going into sustainable materials.
Ok, como pueden ver, aquí es en la gráfica son los movimientos del dinero, hacia dónde está yendo, hacia temas de transportación, temas de sostenibilidad.
This week in Colombia, we've heard about projects across a range of sectors: waste management, renewable energy, mobility, and nature-based solutions.
Recientemente aquí en Colombia estuvimos hablando de diferentes proyectos que tienen que ver con la movilidad, el manejo de residuos.
And again, for many financiers, the returns on investment in some of these areas are very acceptable, are very profitable. It's good business.
Okay, como pueden ver en la gráfica, muchos de los movimientos que se están haciendo en esta industria es aceptable, son buenos.
But the country context matters. So what we've been doing this week is really trying to understand what are the projects that make sense in the Colombian context.
Okay, lo que estamos intentando hacer es identificar los proyectos que tienen sentido, que funcionan en el contexto colombiano.
And then we take a breath and stand back and say, why are we doing this?
Y luego vamos a dar de pronto un paso atrás para entender por qué lo estamos haciendo de esta manera.
This is a survey that the World Economic Forum undertakes every year with execs from all over the world.
Estos son los puntos importantes que se deben tener en cuenta de cómo funciona alrededor del mundo.
And they ask CEOs, what are you worried about?
Y lo que vamos a ver aquí es cómo han estado funcionando.
All I would point you to is that on a 10-year horizon, the top 4 concerns of execs relate to climate and nature and our ecosystems.
En el lado derecho vamos a ver el comportamiento que ha tenido los 4 principales puntos con respecto al cambio climático y natural.
Here in Colombia, I've been talking to colleagues this week about the water shortages in parts of the country.
Aquí en Colombia hemos hablado con varios colegas acerca de este comportamiento en el país.
Last summer in California, 3 of the biggest home insurers withdrew from the residential insurance market because they could not price and hedge wildfire risk in California.
Okay, en California estuvimos hablando muchos de estos temas acerca de cómo íbamos a hacer la implementación para poder llevar esto a cabo.
When I work with companies now who have to disclose their climate risks to investors, they really want to understand what is the P&L or impairment risk of climate on their asset portfolio.
Y cuando hacemos las visitas a las compañías involucradas debemos de hacer el disclosure, darles la información adecuada para poder lograr el apoyo que se necesita.
So, that's the context. Now,
Okay, esos fueron algunos conceptos. Ahora,
how does this program make an intervention in support of those objectives?
¿y cómo esto va a ser o tener una incidencia para soportar o apoyar el movimiento de estos proyectos?
In many countries, there is a clear policy framework at the national level, but insufficient pipeline of projects being developed to deploy capital.
En diferentes países tenemos un marco definido, pero tenemos insuficiencia de proyectos que vayan hacia los resultados que se quieren lograr.
So here in Colombia, for example, you've had a carbon tax for many years.
O sea, por ejemplo, aquí en Colombia ustedes tienen muchos aspectos como este.
And things are moving in Latin America.
Y las cosas igual están moviéndose en Latinoamérica.
It is highly likely that Brazil will have a mandatory carbon pricing regime by October this year.
Okay, por ejemplo, en Brasil tienen unos marcos legales específicos que están definidos para este año.
And we heard from Nicolas, I'm not sure if he's in the audience, that there is a real opportunity for capital to conglomerate in the Spanish-speaking world somewhere, and Colombia has that opportunity.
En Colombia, no sé si ustedes sabían, hay una gran oportunidad para tener una participación en esto, en los hablantes de español.
So, against that background, what we're trying to do here is support project developers to make their projects what we call bankable or investable.
Aquí podemos ver algunos antecedentes acerca de cómo podemos apoyar esa industria para que sea más visible.
And what that means very simply is you need to speak the language of finance and business.
Lo único que quiero decir aquí es que ustedes necesitan hablar la lengua del negocio y de inversión.
You may be passionate about sustainability, but if you want someone to invest in you, you have to give them a feel for what your product or service is, why you think you can deliver it, and what the returns and risk profile of that investment looks like.
Okay, pueden estar apasionados por el tema de la sostenibilidad, pero se necesita mucho más que eso para que esto tenga un hecho, un resultado significativo.
So CFA is about combining the experience of project financiers, engineers, legal experts to work with project developers such that, and you'll see them later, they can be compelling when they're speaking to a room of potential investors.
Y CFA finalmente es la combinación de todo este grupo de personas y de comportamientos que se necesitan para poder tener los resultados que realmente queremos.
Very quickly, this is the process that we undertake.
Este es el proceso que regularmente tenemos.
And we have been running this program in 10 countries for the last 3 years.
Y es lo que hemos venido desarrollando en diferentes grupos durante los últimos años.
Very quickly, we have a scoping phase to understand the regulatory environment in country.
En este punto estamos hablando del alcance que tiene el tema del clima en cada uno de los países.
We issue a request for proposals and we select projects based on their potential.
Se envía una solicitud para luego seleccionar los proyectos que tienen potencial.
And then we run events both in country and in London to connect those project developers with the finance community.
Y tratamos de llevar esos proyectos, los que llegan a London, para poder darles el apoyo que se necesita.
Then the final step is important, and that's why I was delighted that Tim mentioned the commitment of UK government to this program in the future, because we need to embed this process in the country.
Y el último paso es muy importante, porque aquí es donde generamos el compromiso con los gobiernos para que dé el apoyo a cada uno.
More numbers.
Más números.
And these are the successes of the program.
Y esto es lo que hace el éxito del programa.
Very briefly to give you the subject headers.
Aquí pues vamos a tener los puntos importantes.
These are the countries we have reached.
Este es el alcance por país.
These are the number of applications to the program.
Este es el número de programas, de aplicación de programas.
These are the projects we've selected to work with us and their dollar value.
Son los proyectos que seleccionamos para trabajar con nosotros.
And then what really matters, these are the deals that we've closed and the cumulative deal value associated.
Y aquí uno de los más importantes son las cifras relacionadas a las inversiones.
So as you see, the numbers in green represent specific numbers for Colombia.
Y los números que ven en verde son la representación de los números relacionados a Colombia.
So this week has been our third cycle of CFA in Colombia.
Y semana hemos estado trabajando muy duro aquí en Colombia.
And to date, nearly $60 million of deals have been closed for projects who have worked with us on the program.
Y en este momento las cifras son $60 millones que tenemos habilitados para trabajar aquí en Colombia.
So hopefully that gives you a sense of the size and hopefully the success of CFA.
Entonces, por supuesto que tengo una gran experiencia que esto va a ser un gran éxito.
Other way. And where do we go from here?
Okay. Ahora empezamos con esto.
I was delighted to be with our minister at the climate negotiations, the COP in Dubai in November.
Estoy muy feliz también de poder mencionar lo relacionado a lo que sucedió en la convención del COP,
where UK government confirmed an extension to the CFA program with £40 million of additional technical assistance funding for a further 5 years.
Okay, aquí pues ocurrió algo muy importante. El gobierno de UK, de United Kingdom, habilitó 40 millones de financiación para noviembre de 2024.
And of course, this program will continue in Colombia.
Y por supuesto, este programa va a tener incidencia en Colombia.
Unfortunately, it may be, if we are selected to continue, that I will lose my hair in the next phase of the program.
Desafortunadamente, en Colombia hay muchos aspectos que debemos tener en cuenta diferente a esto.
Because the program will extend to 16 countries worldwide.
Porque el programa se va a extender a 16 países más.
But hopefully you will concur, given the charts I showed at the beginning, that we need this program globally to mobilize capital for climate finance.
Y por supuesto, como les dije desde el principio, nosotros necesitamos del funcionamiento de este programa alrededor del mundo.
So with that context, ladies and gentlemen, again, my apologies for not addressing you in Spanish, but I thank you for your attention, and I turn it over to colleagues to tell you more. Thank you.
Y en general, estos eran los temas que querían compartir. Nuevamente, me disculpan por el inglés y nuevamente gracias.
Muchísimas gracias, señor Ian, por sus palabras. We also would like to thank Isabella, Tim, and Ian for their intervention this morning, and would like to welcome the rest of our audience and those of you who are joining us online through WebEx and YouTube. We will now like to welcome to stage Margarita Casas, who is the partner for sustainability coming from PwC Colombia, who's going to present us with the latest advances, achievements, and challenges from our CFA in Colombia. Good morning, and thank you very much for making it over to Banco de Bogota that this early in this morning. And I'd like to give you a message not only as a leader of PwC and part of the leadership of PwC, but also on behalf of Claudia Martinez, that unfortunately she couldn't make it this morning, but she sends her regards. And CFA is a platform that is right now present in 10 countries, and we hope to be in 16 countries in the future. In Colombia, we have managed to develop, together with different organizations from the public sector and the private sector, and together with the corporate and banking sector, in general terms, we have managed to create a wonderful practice where we have managed to create some wonderful projects that we are going to share with you, not only in what we are going to present today, but it has also happened in two former sessions as well, in two former courts. So here we have proponents from different proposals that are going to help us to achieve the goals that we have in terms of decarbonization. I'd like to tell you about some of these stakeholders that have participated, and of course I'd like to thank each of them, because without these organizations and these expert professionals in different subjects, we wouldn't have been able to increase or to improve all of our different understanding in this matter. And I'd like to thank as well the National Planning Department, because together with the climate financial assessment initiatives, they're helping different initiatives in the country, including CFA, and they're also helping the different proponents for them to actually strengthen all these different projects so they can come to their financial balance. So thank you very much. I'd like to thank all of these different stakeholders. And going back to what Ian has just mentioned, I'd like to mention some of the milestones that we have achieved with this CFA. So it started back in 2019 and 2017, and then between 2019 and 2020, we received 60 different proposals, and we supported 10 proposal proponents. And then we have a permanent secretariat, which was a technical secretariat that was led by the D3 group. And then in 2022, we had the first cycle of operation in the country, having in mind the participation of different proponents in the Apollo sector, energy sector, and transport as well. In 2023, we continue moving forward with the second cycle of the operation, as well accelerating as well some other projects. And in 2024, which is right now, this is the third cycle of the permanent operation of this CFA in the country. So if we pay attention to these figures, we can see that what we see in blue and in the left side of this slide, we can see that in this year we have 122 applications, and then we have in these three cycles we have received 362 projects, mainly coming from the follow sector, and then followed by the energy sector, which is very important to us. That is followed by the transport, residual, and other uses of the ground. And then in the projection, we have 6 projects that are going to be presented throughout the day today. And here we want to generate not only important impacts at the environmental aspect, but also the social and economical level for investors and these organizations that are here. And these projects are mainly focused in the energy sector, but we also had some other projects in the follow and energy sector as well. And here we had an interesting figure which is led by the energy sector. That was very interesting. Let's say this was very important last year. So here we can see how different stakeholders have participated in this project, and then I'll tell you how we are going to continue moving forward and how the whole project has been developed throughout the last 3 years. I want to tell you about the projects of the first cycle. In 2022, we have the AGA buses, which wants to create an assembly line for electric buses that are going to be fueled by batteries. And then we have CHEC, which is going to be using the geothermal energy in the Riz mountain range, or the Riz um, mountain. And here, and also we're going to be working with the cooperation with Colanta, which is going to be working in the dairy sector. Then we also work with Geofuturo, which is going to be using some solid residuals. And we also had SEMA, which is looking for ways of having, let's say, 1,000 solutions in terms of housing using the Casa Colombia certification. Then we have Soluna, which is going to be working with solar panels in the Orinoco region in Colombia. And then we had U Energy, that is going to be using solar farms in different rural sectors of the country. In 2023, then we had the pleasure to get to work with Avanti, which is an electric bus system what is going to be helping out this Pastos region in the country. Then we work with Ecopetrol in order to work with green hydrogen in Cartagena and Barranca Bermeja, in line with the development of low carbon emission products. Then we had Evolti that awarded some uh, specific aids for solar panels. And then we have Focus and Enlace that is working on with vehicles in order to work with the ports in Colombia. Then we have Gestión and Desarrollo Ambiental, that is using with the with a compost plant in the country that is going to be working with the food sector with a high quality compost in the country. And then we have TCC that is going to replace through Gaia and Sector Residencial 2.0. It is going to help with the diesel transport system in order to help the transportation in the country. So here, these are very interesting projects for throughout the whole sector. Then in 2024, and then let's say giving you a bit of a tease for for what we're going to get today. This week we have been working on different initiatives, and we have been working with those companies that are going to be presenting their initiatives today. So first of all, we have Altero that are going to be working on the ecological management of batteries, of lithium batteries. Then we have the Corporación Acción Verde, or the Green Action Corporation, that is working with indigenous communities and that have been planting native trees. We also have Ecosystems Group with their program that is called Blue Treasures, that is looking for ways through a specific algae. It is going. I'm sorry, ecosystem that is going to build marine farms or sea farms for in order to work with the animals in these ecosystems by feeding them with algae. And then we have Genesis Lemon. We are going to be using some organic compost material. Then we have Terrasan, the Terrasan group, that is going to have a technological park in order to process organic and inorganic material in the northern part of this city, Bogota. And then we have Scania Technology that is going to be working with solid residual in terms of energy. So here we have 6 wonderful initiatives that are going to be sharing with us what they're doing with these different initiatives, and they're going to present us some specific and important figures in order to create some added value in these sectors. Throughout this cycle, we have managed to complete some mentorships with some financial experts, and this has been a very positive experience because in that sense we are presenting them to real life situations. We're presenting all the proponents to real life situations, and we are going to, and in these kind of mentorships, we propose them, or they were posed with different challenges, and they would be asked about what the added value of their initiatives would be in terms of the social and economical aspects. So I'd like to thank all the different experts that they helped us out in this process. And this week, we had different scenarios in order to interact and to learn from each other that have been deeply valued, but they have also been deeply challenging for all of the proponents, as you can imagine, because it's been, let's say, 3 days of hard work to be ready for today's presentation. So all these mentorships have been very important because it is important to see how they can actually uh, bridge and how they can learn from one another. And last but not least, I'd like to tell you that out of this practice, out of this exercise that we have conducted in these last 3 years, it has been quite interesting to see how to manage the articulation, or how to do the manage between the environmental sector and this financial corridor, where different stakeholders are working hand in hand in order to work around this climate area. We have worked with financial organizations, banking institutions, and also state agencies, because we're not going to manage to do anything if we don't work hand in hand with them. And we will only manage to have the quality we need if we have each of their participation. So here we have innovative proposals and business models that are going to become bankable, and we managed to have this networking and this, let's say, relation that was established between the different actors that are part of this ecosystem. And we also have a specific coverage and outreach throughout the country, and and to see what is the specific outreach that we're going to have with the different donors. So in terms of what we've done during these 3 years, I can tell you that there's still a lot to be done. And here we can see some, let's say, key points that we believe are important and that we hope that can be tackled through this initiative that is led by the United Kingdom, and that we hope to expand to 16 countries that are going to be there, and Colombia expects to be there as well as it has been so far. So first of all, we need to have the coordination with different financial entities, investors, and donors, which goes hand in hand with the second part, which is the creation of financial vehicles that are going to be combined within the different institutions and amongst different institutions. If it is true that we need these projects to be appealing, because having this mixed funding and the combination of different participation, the participation of different stakeholders, it is important for them to actually get to work in these projects. So that's why we need to have more of these, let's say, financial vehicles between companies and amongst entities. Likewise, we need to strengthen the financial support to different projects and their different stages, because what we've seen so far is during these 3 cycles, there are some projects that are more mature than others, and actually some of them are ready to be implemented and scaled up, but there are some others that need, let's say, to be pushed because, for example, they haven't established their case yet. So that's why we need a lot of support for these projects in order to actually have a very solid structure, in order for them to have a better future and for them to have a better impact and better aggregation. Because we have also seen very interesting projects, but sometimes we don't see how they're not appealing enough for the different investors. So that's why it is important to have this support. We need to have more supports and better supports in the follow sector, and we all need to see together how we can have a regulatory framework that is going to be, let's say, enabling for what we need to do. And last but not least, it is important to be working with the data that Ian mentioned, which is the investment of money that we're going to have in place for all the different climate initiatives. So all of this is going to be there for the technological transference that we need to have in place. So there's still a lot. I mean, we have done a lot, but there's still a lot to be done for those projects that still need this acceleration for them to find the resources they need. But we need to be helping out each other so we can actually decrease these emissions that are quite challenging. Thank you very much, not only for being here, but also for the support that you have provided the Climate Finance Accelerator with, especially in the last 3 years. And I would also like to thank ProColombia, Bancoldex, and Banco de Bogotá for hosting this event. Once again, thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much to Margarita for showing us this panorama. Now let's start the panel of this journey that is going to be closing gaps and it related to the topics related with the climate. In this case, we have the participation of Enrique Cadena, Vice President of the Financial of the National Finance, Mr. Juan Pablo Bustamante, the President of Sustainability, Lina Maria Toro, Director of Sustainable Finances, and Diana Baron, Director of Sustainable Finances. To the development of this panel, we are going to be here with Patricia Velasquez, who is the manager. Welcome. Okay, welcome. We are really happy you're here. Thanks to all of you, such as Margarita Sierra with his topics about challenges, achievements, and this is the way as we can cross these barriers. All right, there. Okay, there we go. So we have a really good panel. They are super stakeholders who are going to help us to find like those specific points where we are trying to understand this accelerator in a better way, and we're going to be able to find this path. We are going to have a little presentation about Enrique, Juan, Lina, and Diana because they are really known in this sector and they have been supporting these projects here in this industry. Enrique is industrial engineer. You have more than 30 years of experience here, and now from the financing area we have to Juan. They have a really long experience also from Finagro, because this is a very important aspect for the country. And Lina is the leader of sustainability with huge experience also in this bank, creating the climate lines. And Diana is also an expert from the area of financing and coordination about this topic of sustainability in the Banco de Bogota. And now let's start with some questions that I have here for each of our participants here, just to be able to share it. So you have there a microphone, and you'll be able to answer these questions. So, which is the principal or main barriers, but also the opportunities that we have in order to be able to finance a climate project in Colombia? So let's start with the girls. If you want, Diana, you have the floor. Hello for everyone. Welcome to Banco de Bogota. I'm gonna start talking about the things that I believe that the opportunities that we have, which are the opportunities that we can take care about the climate situations here in the country. I believe that here in the country we are in a situation where the financing institutions, we have some portfolios, particularly in the Bogota, in Banco de Bogota, we have one climate action that is going to be pointed to finance some of the customers who are working in this mission. So in that way, now we are in a really good moment using the green wallets, and that's an opportunity that we didn't have 10 years ago. So if someone had a talk about these kind of projects, probably a few of them are going to be able to evaluate it. So after those protocols and those capabilities that we have been working in around this industry, just to be able to understand it in a better way, how maybe these kind of things are impacting these dimensions. So it's going to be fundamental, and for that reason I wanted to start with the good opportunities. I'm not saying that the work, this work that's going to be our priority. It's just amplifying this kind of availabilities. But anyway, it's going to be really to the capabilities also. So that's going to be talking about the opportunities. From talking about the challenges, I'll say that that's part of the important things that I have seen, and the main challenge here is the one that are really good structures and the one that we can finance, because unfortunately the ones that get the banks are like projects that are not available for it. So, and this is because sometimes there are lack of structures, or I will say that that's the other barrier, all the topics related to the accessibility that we need in terms of technology, innovation, and also in terms of agricultural aspects. I will say that that's a huge challenge in when we are talking about this kind of projects. Okay, I'm gonna give the floor to Lina. Lina, which opportunities and barriers you can see from your bank? Good morning for everyone. I will say that I have seen many of these faces talking about this topic. Hello to everyone, the leaders of the projects that we are going to be talking about this. I will say that we have a lot of value, and I hope that we can finance those kind of projects. Thank you very much to Diana. Thank you for letting me say something. So obviously she has been. I'm going to be based on the information that Diana told. I will say that beyond these kind of situations with the financial institutions, I will say that we are focused in the sustainability, because this is gonna relate to some topics obviously related to mobilization, and we are talking about with some commercials, and sometimes we are really surprised about all the things that we have been finding, and that's going to help us a lot in order to generate a better impact in the clients. And also that's our daily routine, just to see how we can get better results in the area. And just to talk about this in a better way, I will say that the country is having a better situations in terms of sustainability, like good competence, and also like a good job, because in these scenarios we are with Banco da Vivienda, Banco BBVA, just supporting the projects in an authentic way, and also waiting that for the next weeks we are going to have better results. That's a really good lesson, and obviously that's one of the um, lessons that we have been learning, and the banks, I will say that have been working. I will say that Juan Paulo is going to be talking about this. That's a really good opportunity, and that's gonna help us a better tool to keep grow with those tools that we have in the bank, with some offers that are going to be really important for it. So I will say that after said this, that's one of the other barriers, and how the sustainability is like a business where the price plays a really good a role, because all of us understand what is what the impact is. As Diana mentioned, we are going to be able to understand how we are going to be supporting some of the projects, and taking into account obviously all the topics related to the planet and our communities, and that's going to be a challenge for us. So, and just to moving forward the work, I will say that performance that we have been making with some ministries, it's a huge opportunity to precisely support the sustainability. Okay, this is one of the challenge for the sector that sometimes we don't understand from Finagro. What do you think? All right, thank you very much, Lina, for your introduction, and also thank you for all the finalists who arrived so far. I'll say that we have a lot of opportunities. Every single time we see more and more the interest of the people, and in this case, is not. This is something that it's not something that we want. And I will say that this is a fundamental point. This is a moment where if we are not able to adapt ourselves in order to change a good change, will say that this sector in 10 or 15 years is not going to be working like this. If the agricultural environment, we don't generate these changes and these practices just to go forward, or just to work with the generation of everything. I'll say that we have to invent it again. I will say that here we have the real challenge about how we can get this point, just to avoid be focusing the same points that my co-workers said. And the main barriers here are the information barriers. In the financial sector, we have some topics related to the resources, and I hope that we are going to be able to go forward. For example, the Paris Agreement, but with a big difficulty is going to be here where or how I'm going to use those resources. And also the question is, what are the things that I have to do? So we already know what are the practices that are not working, and also the things that are generating a negative impact in the planet. And that's how we are going to be able to see what are the things that we need to understand. And we are going to understand also some disruptive ideas, which are going to be really fundamental, because not always is not going to be easy for the banks that information that you are given are are going to be working for everything. And that's how we are going to show the private banking aspects. What are the things that we have to do, and what are the proposals that you have just to be able to materialize everything? If the banking sector doesn't understand everything, we are not going to be able to materialize many of those projects. And several of those ideas, I will say that we believe in our area, in whatever region, the people understand, and they are compromised to modify the things. But it's fundamental that those financial numbers, because when we get this period, the profitability is going to change the sense. And that's how we are going to understand what are the things that we are projecting, and how it's going to be working in the future. There is where we are going to find a barrier. And it's pretty important just taking into account those spaces, just to see what the information is, and also that the information becomes popular for everyone, just to be able to cross this barrier and just to increase the flow of these final tools. I will say that we are adding several ideas in this list, and there are several topics also that we have been overcoming about the information, just to be able to provide the information to every single level. So taking into account the national financial entity, how you are seeing those situations inside this structure, and obviously taking into account the new projects and the impact that these are generating, how those projects and how those goals and barriers are working for you. So honestly, these kind of initiatives are helping us to be closer to this topic. And the question here is how we can become an idea in a project, and how we can create a real project, how we can finance this project. I'll say that that's the main challenge that the sector has, and I want to congratulate this effort, because the thing here is that you're trying to see how you can take this initiative, how you can become these initiatives to projects. And I don't recognize any bank in terms of development, or any bank who is not interested in develop these kind of strategies in different ways, in different manners, and that's how we are finding the better way to invest or finance. And that's the initiative that we are having. Some banks are managing some standards which we can use in order to find the challenge. And that's how from the financial institution we are trying to generate a package of products just to be able to cover those specifically those needs. And that's the group that we are trying to create in order to work precisely in those challenges that we are having. And that's how we are going to be able to work with those resolutions related to the projects. We are launching some projects. I will say that here we are finding some other difficulties, but anyway, that's the thing that is going to let us know how we can value these projects, and that's going to allow us to finance in a faster way. And that's a performance that we have been developing just to make able to make easier this kind of projects, the development of these projects. And the last point is going to be how we can bring some of the resources. And we were thinking about this a couple of years. I will say that Colombia has been shy trying to get this kind of resources, and also how Colombia we have been really shy in this process. And in this sense, we were able to bring some resources just to finance these aspects, and that's how we are helping all the projects bringing those resources. And anyway, there's going to be a risk, but anyway, also we are going to have in this case the proper conditions through some structures, and that's going to make easier this financial process. So as a wrap up, I will say that how the question here is how we can improve the quality, and also in order to be able to attract other banks, and also how we can finance another other projects, small projects, because sometimes the conditions that require this kind of projects are not necessarily the better ones for them. Thank you very much. I will say that we know in a really good way the barriers. I will say that we have identified everything, and also the things that you were able to reach. So when you listen these kind of things, these are the heart of this accelerator, the one that is inside the institutions. And also in Finagro they announced that they have all this new area for this support about structure, and also how this ecosystem is working, trying to find a new pathway. We are trying to look for these options that we have been working during these kind of purposes. And about the projects, the ones that have the accelerator and the ones that are part of these partnerships. And it's pretty important how we can work all together, where you are going to be able to fit these purposes. And the question here is how do you think that we can do better just to be able to accelerate more projects, and also how we can take more benefits of this accelerator? What do you think about that? How we can use this in order to support us? So Juan, what could be just to take out about those strategies, the things that you have seen because you have been listening to these projects and it's really close to you? Okay, and a fundamental topic in this kind of support is going to be the ones that we need to generate or develop those capabilities. And sometimes we are like stuck in this line and you have been suffering these kind of situations, how you can get this point. But unfortunately, this is limiting a lot of things because a lot of initiatives and falling down in these situations, and they are not visible. Actually, the ones from the region become difficult. Here the invitation is let's bet to this option, just to be able to identify what are the things that we need to do, just to be able to support those ideas, and also just to take advantage about how we can generate the new resources that are gonna allow us keep working on it. It's sometimes difficult taking into account the risks, and that's how we should understand how we can learn. And sometimes very brave people, you are very brave people because you are here, and now in terms of emotional aspects, we are gonna be so tired because I've been working on it. I have all the initiatives, but anyway, I'm alone. I know you feel that, and that's how I can support that exercise. And for example, in this moment we are 6, but in the future, the idea is that we are not that we are going to be 60, and that's really fundamental, and that's going to be a hard filter. And in that way, we are going to be able to find those actors, in not only in this kind of support that we have here in the financial institution, also it's going to be the technical area, and those kind of ideas are going to help let us see maybe the principal actors in order to see the viability, and this is going to let left a lot of ideas, and all those efforts are going to be really useful. And we have to determine, after we have at this point, I'm going to say this is not the easy point, but I know that you are able to get a determined project. I will say that this support is very useful for you, because at the end, it's a really good symptom just having this conversation. But when we see beyond how we can get or increase the volume of the beneficiaries of this labor that we are trying to do here, is fundamental for that, just to be able to articulate how we can use this kind of businesses in a best way, and how we can create this system of projects in a sustainable way.
Thank you very much, Thomas. And I think what you said last is very important for what the corridor has got in terms of the first, let's say, first mile that we have gone through. That it's very important, and I know that you're doing a lot in order to nourish those first steps that are going to be connected with this accelerator, so we can actually make it happen. Lina, or maybe Enrique, if you want to. All right. So. I think it is very important to strengthen everything that has to do with the preparation of the project itself, because that's what I think we need to work on. And it is also important to work with the soft, let's say, soft resources, because those are the things that are going to help us out in the incubating, let's say, part of the project, especially when you have just an initiative and you have to bring over the investors. And the second aspect that I like to mention, which is what we're talking about today, is the incubating, let's say, stage. Because many of the developers that you see in these sort of initiatives are people with a very, let's say, very high technical knowledge in terms of, let's say, solutions at the technical level, but maybe in the financial sort of knowledge that they need to have, and how to put up together all the pieces of the puzzle need to be put together, for example, in terms of the legal aspect or the financial aspect for the energy sector, for example. That's the point where we need to have an ecosystem that is going to help them out, or help us out to access to different, let's say, experiences or different things that are going to help them out to actually have their proposals passed, so they can check on the regulatory aspects, and they can check actually the PPA, and they can check on the different standards that they need to have in place in the market, and so they can have their due diligence. and in such way that when they get to their conversation with the bank, so they're going to have the same level, or they're going to be able to respond to what the question, they're going to be able to respond to the financial questions that the bank may raise. So they can find their sponsors, so they can find their impact funds, and in such way that they can actually know how to talk to them, how to respond to them, so they can actually have a facilitator for them to have these conversations, these very smooth conversations that would change the way in which they would tackle these processes, because otherwise it would be the death of the valley of death, and instead of having that, they're going to come to a completion of their initiative. So it is important to put up together these ecosystems and to make it explicit for every person that is going to be part of this, so they can understand how they are going to actually access to it and what they need to have in place in order to put up a project such as this one. So once they got to this panel, once they are questioned by the financial sector about what the project is about, they can actually respond to it, because of course we need to have in mind the expenses that you need to undertake whenever you are, let's say, implementing, or whenever you're drafting these kind of projects. You need to hire a lawyer, you need to hire some experts to support your process. So that's why I think all of this is important for it to be in place. And I think that with all of these, we have managed to, let's say, to set the pathway with all of these mentorships and all of this. So maybe Lena and Diana, how do you think we're doing in that sense? Or what can we do to keep on moving forward? Well, I think, and I'm going to switch the perspective a bit, because the accelerator in that sense is very valuable. This is the third cycle of it, and we now see, let's say, projects that are at an, let's say, more advanced, let's say, stage in comparison to the former ones. And here we can see a level of innovation that is very important, that is going to take us to, let's say, and now I'm going to be talking about the lessons learned. And in that sense, it is important to mention what sort of lessons we have learned as organizations, because in the end, this is nothing but an invitation to keep on moving forward, because here we can identify the different opportunities that we may have. And now I'm going to go back to what Carolina said last week, which is that in that innovative process, there is also an invitation for the banks to be innovative in their internal processes, because banks continue to understand the projects in the traditional way. So whenever a new innovative project comes over, we continue to see the risks in the same way. And with small and medium and large projects, actually we had an exercise here together with Maria Alejandra, who was the person supporting all these projects. And it is, in that sense, it is important to understand how these projects, not only but also ourselves, need to go through these transformations. And we saw that with the renewable energy projects, because we know that it's important to see that it's not the, let's say, we cannot conduct the same follow-up, or we cannot monitor these projects the same way that we have traditionally done with some other projects. So that's why in that sense it is important to change in order to accelerate these projects, or even so one day to actually propose some projects that we haven't seen in this financial corridor, or even to expand them, for example, with chains or clusters that could have, let's say, a greater impact. And those could be things that we could actually start putting together. Well, those are very important reflections, the ones that you're raising there. Yeah, I completely agree with everything my colleagues have said. But I'd also like to say, to mention some other elements. So first of all, convinced that these success stories, they are very attractive. So we need to go, so we need to check on those people who actually made it, and we need to actually tell those stories, because we can agree to say that with this climate finance acceleration needs a lot of innovation. So I agree with Carolina in saying that maybe the way that we are, let's say, drafting these projects it also represents a challenge, not only for the proponents but also for the banks. And so in that sense, I think that that's something to bear in mind in order to understand and to better understand these success stories, so we can get some inspiration from them. And now on the other hand, and going back to what some of my colleagues have said, is that we need to actually focus in the industrial sector. So, and the initial stages. So, the incubating stage is very, very important. So, we need to have, let's say, some risk fund investment, and that sometimes not everyone can access to. So, so initiatives such as the one that we have here should be opportunities in order to boost these sort of green initiatives. And having in mind that sometimes they have small proposals, and we gotta be careful here because it doesn't mean that because they're small, they're not important. So that's why here in Banco de Bogota, we're launching, let's say, a small scale a financial accelerator for those initiatives that are in this stage of acceleration, and we're trying to tackle on those aspects that you have just mentioned. So first of all, it doesn't have to do with the capital investment, but rather support, so we can, let's say, support the structuring of the project, for example, in the legal component and how they understood the invoicing process, because sometimes they have all this technical knowledge, but they need to actually be more pragmatic in the way that they're going to be implementing all of this in a project itself. So in that sense, we need to actually understand all these projects from a different perspective. And if it's true that we banks are loaning, let's say we're lending this money in a more mature stage, we also need to understand that all of these startups need to start somewhere. So that's why with projects such as the one that we have nowadays, let's say we've been there 2, 3 years sponsoring, let's say, fashion-based initiatives. And of course, this sector have learned a lot so far, but we have also learned a lot. So we have learned how to make these projects to be, let's say, bankable, and not only in terms of banking education or, let's say, financial education, because sometimes it is not about, let's say, a loan, because sometimes we think that all they need is a loan, but it is not all they need. Of course they need a loan, but they need to have different accounts. They also need to have, let's say, different credit cards, for example, for their concurrent payments, for their payroll, for all of these things. So that's the way that we have learned that banks can also be very flexible in order to understand these initiatives and to bet on these sort of initiatives. So I'm very optimistic, and I think that here we not only need the economy, but and the, let's say, the initiatives, but also the banking sector, because just like you said it, of course, here we're moving great deals of money, and we cannot, let's say, we cannot be left out, and we cannot respond to our countries, let's say, with an innovative response in terms of what we need in order to fund these projects. I think that here we can take away some important aspects and some things that Carolina has just mentioned, like what is innovation and where are we moving forward with all of them. And I'd like to conclude with one question about the tools. Because here we can see different, let's say, different milestones so far, and here we can see that there are different banks coming from different areas where we can actually discuss some other things in terms of funding and in terms of the strategies that we can implement. But now we have, let's say, this climate aspect that is important, and there are some other aspects that we need to continue discussing. But I'm not gonna, let's say, spoil any of these surprises that we're gonna see today. But here now we have many tasks to do for the banks to complete within these incubators, and we need to do it then with the proponents, but we also need to do it here with our partners, with this, let's say, with this responsibility of responding to those realities and how to overcome the internal obstacles in order to be able to come to a common ground, so we can diminish the risk level and we can actually work everything around. And I'm sure that we're going to manage, and we're going to manage well. And my last question is, DRC, and this is something that we have seen at the corridor and that you are very familiar with, but what other strategies do you see could be implemented in this ecosystem of tools where all of these public and private participants are coming together to fund this sort of projects? For so where have they met and how they have facilitated all of this to happen through which elements. So I don't know if who would like to go first. Diana, please go ahead. I'd say that the climate funding requires a lot of creativity. Without a doubt, one of the most important needs that we see is how to feed this funding to the particular needs of every project. So in that sense, we've seen the role of the combined funding or mixed funding, that if it is true that for a first, let's say, first floor bank, let's say this is something that we cannot do, I'd like to say, and maybe my colleagues can comment on that, but I'd like to say that here in the bank, we have some other strategies here. So as I said it last year, we launched a bond for $230 million together with four multilateral banks, amongst those BID, Banks in Motion, and BFC, and Fins and Panel. So apart from this funding that this bond has allowed us with, which of course it means that we are going to be able to, let's say, allocate some resources to not only to fund these green initiatives, but also some social initiatives. There is an other initiative that is important as well, which is the technical assistance, and which is the way in which we are going to keep on, let's say, working on these capacities, on how to train them on these initial capabilities and capacities that they need to have. So this is something that we have not only in Banco de Bogota, but it is also something that we have seen in some other banks in ways. So how can we actually create sustainable initiatives? So on the one hand, so this CFA has told us that we are, let's say, the main, let's say, consumers of our policies, of everything that we do. But in terms of this sustainable construction, IFC is giving us, let's say, some training both for our clients and the bank itself in order to understand these sustainable seals, especially the H advanced. And it is also giving the constructors, let's say, some tools, because actually this is a seal or a stamp that is, let's say, more advanced, but this is a seal or a stamp that makes every construction to have some specific and special designs so they can have a meaningful impact in terms of their renewable energy and water saving, and in terms of, let's say, material saving as well. So it is not only about, it is not a matter of serving these constructors, which I think it is our basic, let's say, task. But on the other hand, we need to actually engage some other multilateral stakeholders, because these constructors are also being trained. But on top of that, they're being supported with some specific subsidies that are very important for them in terms of the interest rate. So I think that's the way in which we're going to start to actually to work on this sustainable construction in the future. Maybe that's not something that we need to have in the right now, but I think that's something that we need to have in order to have the capacities or the skill sets that we need to have in the future. So that's something that we're working like with IFC and with some other multilateral agents that actually help us out to actually work on this, let's say, is a construction of different, or let's say with this skill set training for some specific aspects that have some specific impact on the climate environment, on the climate sector. And I think that in one of the bullets that we saw with Margarita, it is important to understand how robust we need to be in this public policy in terms of what we need to have for 2050, together with the financial strategy for the climate aspect and a green taxonomy and some specific guidelines that are quite challenging, but are setting the way, or that are setting the pathway for us to move forward. But in that sense, it is important to underline the work that the different associations are doing, FASE, COLDA, and some others, because it is important to see how we can work it out, because maybe next year we can have this same seminar together with insurance companies, so we can better understand how we can mitigate those risks that might become more complex as time goes by. But of course it is going to provide better assurance of what we're doing. So I think it is important to have this, let's say, this mixed funding, just like Diana was saying before, and as I have said before, And I'm being very kind to Pablo, but I'm going to tell you what. Today we have 7.3 of sustainable bonds. Amongst those, we have a specific one that was together, was developed together with IFC and Finance in Motion, that has some specific impact in the agricultural sector. And today we have 1.1 trillion of funding for the country with these agri-sustainable seals. And this is something that we talked about together with Pablo in terms of how can you better understand the impact that it actually has got, not only on the environment but also on the specific communities, because the impact is not only with climate change but also in the way that this is going to impact these communities and their financial inclusion. So in that sense, we need to understand not only the allocation, but also to see how these projects are going to progress by complying with their promise or meeting their promise. And I think that this is important because it is not only important to be understood at the financial, let's say, on the financial perspective, but it is also going to be, let's say, helping out some other sectors. So just to add on to what Diana was saying in terms of construction, I think that in the agricultural sector, we have moved forward. Actually, this morning I saw the GDP figures in terms of manufacturing and vehicles, but the agricultural, and they have decreased, but the agricultural sector increased from 0.8 to 1.2. So that's important, and I think that it is important to actually pay attention to this because a lot of innovation is required in the agricultural sector, and I think that for us, and especially for this country, it is very relevant in terms of our biodiversity as well. I would say that from the agricultural sector, there are some important bets, and in that sense, we need to actually see how we want to foster this agricultural sector, having some specific best practices in place. And one of the key aspects for it to be implemented and this political will can be translated from, let's say, from words to facts to actions, is that we need to have all the conditions in place for this to be met, because all of this is going to be channeled through the financial corridor. And I think you're all familiar with this, and for example the special lines of credits and so on, and this can actually cause that the impacts of the public policy to actually implement it in such way that we can actually translate it from words to actions. So if we have this, let's say that the incentives that are, let's say, linked to the policy are going to be in line with that. And I think that's the biggest bet in terms of how can we make that our instruments facilitate the implementation of such projects. And that's why we're working with different stakeholders coming from NGOs, multilateral organizations, in order to see what is that needs to be done in order to reverse, let's say, in order to help the agricultural sector. And of course, we understand that there is no a single solution that is going to fit all problems in the sector. And in that sense, it is determinant, or it is key to know that whatever works here, but it's not the same solution that I'm going to replicate elsewhere. And not even if it is, let's say, 20 kilometers away from my farm, because every ecosystem is different, every soil is different, and I need to know how to take advantage, how to seize the opportunities that we have in each of the different sectors that I'm working in. So I need to know what I'm going to be fostering, what I'm going to be boosting, and what I'm going to be working in each of the sectors, so the financial sector can actually draft all these instruments that are going to facilitate those changes. It is also key not only to, let's say, listen to the initial story, because that's the, let's say, the biggest mistake that we make at the second banking level. So for example, I know that we have the resources, I know that everything has been initiated, but then that's the story, but I never knew what happened after that. So in that sense, it is important to get to know what happened afterwards. How much carbon did I capture? How much of let's say increase did I have in my production? Because it is important to monitor, to follow up, and to track down all of the different actions that I am undertaking in order to see what are the actual impacts that I am getting out of the different actions that I am undertaking. Because otherwise I'm going to repeat the same mistakes over and over, because I might believe that I did it right, but it might not be So that's why it is important to follow up on that. And of course, I need to go back to what Banco de Bogota said. It is important to say to see how the supply chain is going to be, let's say, embedded into all of this, and how can I actually bring them over, and how can I engage the supply chain. In that sense, I need to use the integrators, so we can have these, let's say, these important actors, to see how they're going to be sharing their benefits, and how they're going to dynamize the small, let's say, participants. So in this case, actually, Banco de Bogota has been one of the first ones to see how these integrators are going to impact, let's say, the baseline of many different chains. So that's why we need to understand how the public and private sector works, but also we need to understand what we need to do in the private sector, so all of the different benefits can actually find their way to wherever, whenever they're supposed to be going, in order to help all the people in the.
Okay, thank you very much. We have to see the whole movie just to evaluate it. All right, I will say that one of the things that, or like a learned lesson in terms of sustainability, is going to be the specialization in the measure that we as a financial institution, we have seen the specific needs about also how we can improve the efficiency about the way as we can finance the project. We find the manner to get specific points that are going to help us to make more efficient result. We've found that there is a bunch of resources which we can use to replace them with a guarantee, and also it's gonna impact 5 or 10% of the total amount. And also just to see how we can take different kind of risks in the, like in the case of merchant in general, when you start just seeing all the sectors and you're trying to be focused about how you can add value, and also how you can take more additional risks. You are going to have an extra offer, and here we have an important point in banking terms, and just to go beyond that understanding in every single sector, how we can contribute to every single sector, and also in the ones that we are more focused, and also we are escalating and taking more sectors, just having a deep knowledge about the products and what we can do, or maybe what could be the difference in the offer. That's the topic that is important for us, and I will say that there is a pending agenda. It's going to be the one with the carbon certificates, in order to receive benefits of these products, and also how the projects are going to be helping. And that's a project that is going to be related to the financial sector, about how we can create a market with the carbon, just to create an extra way to get money. And I would say that that's a pretty important topic, and that's an agenda that is pending, but we should organize it. All right, what an amazing panel, just to working with these ideas, because many people has been giving all the support in order to improve the accelerator. Also, here we have all the stakeholders just creating different structures, and also they are working in order to create in an internal way those kind of sessions, and just to be able to find some resolutions. And that's how we can combine all the strategies. In that way we can work together, and in that way all of us, we can come here to the panel. And also this is a really good exercise about the accelerator. So Carolina already have a really good knowledge about how to create those resolutions that we have been taking into account, and actually also, I know that the projects has been helping all the needs that we have here in the country, and also we have been um, contributing to the main goal that we have. Thank you very much, Diana, Lina, Juan, and Enrique, for being here, for keeping working, and let's listen to these magnificent projects that we are gonna tell you right now. Thank you very much to our panelists and Patricia to be the moderator. Now it's the time. Now we are gonna know the projects in the third court of the accelerator, the ones that are going to be adding value to the climate changes. Now let's welcome our participants. Okay, let's welcome to Carlos Osorio from Altero SAS with his project Unblocking the Biological Project of Lithium. Good morning for everyone. I am the director of new projects in Altero. Okay, in Altero we unblock the value of the lithium batteries. Each of us has an intelligent or smart cell phone, and this battery is manufactured with some materials which now we are not using a lot. One of these ones are the lithium. And why this is important? Because this is an important resource in order to manufacture this kind of batteries and also to decarbonize the transportation and replace it by renewable energies. And for 2028, is going to be 2.4 million of tons, and we are not talking about only about the lithium, and also we are going to have another strategical elements that we should reduce the usage, and we already know that the recollection of this kind of materials is around the 21%, but we have that 9% that now are working at wastes, and the 70% of these batteries we put it in some waste displays or also contaminating the water. But now if we are going to talk about the manufacturing of this kind of lithium batteries, these are the percentage that we are using that came from recycle materials, and that depends on the extraction of the raw material in this case. And that's why I altered and I contribute to this process in order to reduce this cap. We are recycling in a sustainable way these kind of batteries. We developed technology just to be able to recycle these kind of batteries through the environment, taking into account environmental aspects, giving to everyone a process or a resolution of a circular economy. And we have reached eco-transformation and get benefits of this around less than $1 per kilogram, and that's going to be 50% less than the general standard. And in Altero, we have developed this technology, and we have this pattern, and and we use a technology that is involved in a container, and we have used a modular technology, and it's going to be a little plant, and also it's going to be really profitable, and you can locate it in whatever part of the world. In this moment, Altero is located in Guarne, 45 minutes from Medellin, near to the airport Jose Maria Cordova. And in this case, we have a plant in this place with the capability of 1,000 tons, just to be able to warehouse different this amount of batteries. And also, I'm gonna let you know how this technology is working. In this case, we use some gases in order to neutralize the electrolyte, just to be able to prevent previous elements in order to avoid whatever kind of explosion. And also with some electromagnetical systems, we are separating some critical materials. These materials we got it from two products. We have the black mass, the one that is rich in lithium, and also we are making a transformation from one wastes, and we active it in terms of environmental usage. And also we have another materials that we have here, and we are commercializing them, and in that way we can get the closing of this cycle selling this kind of products to the one who are producers of raw material. The contribution in terms of environmental aspects was 80.5 tons. We avoid some emissions of CO2, and also we avoid the contamination around 4,200 liters of water. When we talk about the module of the business, we have some assigned contracts which allow us to split the business in two parts. We buy these kind of batteries, and we receive the payment for the eco transformation according to the responsibility that we are going to have with the producer. And also we got some partnerships with electrical vehicles companies in order to support them to hit its expansion in Latin America. We have these specific materials. Last year we were able to sell $330,000, and we closed business around $250 with the product in United States. And also the sales that we are going to have is going to be $1.4 million transforming these materials. So in this short time we were able to consolidate everything from the transportation, the eco transformation, also finally closing this cycle with the sale of these products. And when we are talking about these products, about DESG, we are using the taxonomy here in Colombia just to contribute in an important development. We generate some green job, and we reduce depending on some specific materials. We are moving to America Latina. Also, we are supporting the industry of some manufacturing of vehicles, just to be able to export our material directly to Brazil and Mexico. The size of this is really important, because for 2028 we are going to have $7.3 billion, and Altero is planning to participate with $31 million in 2028 as an income. Altero Virtus has other kind of strategies, and this is going to be related to the development, a superior development. And we are in a scenario where the technology is dry, is a mechanic technology, and we are different because we are a clean energy, is non-conventional. We don't use water, there's zero wastes, and we are 50% more economics than the general standard in the world. In terms of the installation, we have some efficient ways to install it, and also we have a huge opportunities to scale and in order to be 100% sustainable. During the first years, we are gonna have we got a growth period where we got in red the plant with around 300 tons in this case, and in 2025 we have really good, the projection we are going to have really much better numbers in this case with the current exercise. So we are going to require in this moment some investments, but anyway we have decided a lot of things in order to get this kind of intelligent resources. So in this case, we are talking about that in 2026, 2027, and 2028, we are increasing the number of plants for a total of 10 plants, just to be able to get the number that I told you before, $31 million. This strategy about go-to-market, we are talking about the continuous development in some specific regions, and also just to complement uh, all the markets into a specific place: United States, Europe, and Asia. This is our team in Altero. We are a team of really experts in terms of entrepreneur in United States. Also, we got our first investor that is going to be Cave 50, and they are related to Auteco. And also, we are in the first period of this section of investment, where it's going to be 1.5 million pesos with a minimum ticket of $250,000. We have to define the discount that we are going to do to this, just to get the result of 50% in terms of investigation, and development of the equipment is going to be 50%, and capex is going to be 10%. That's all. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Carlos, for your words. Let's say welcome to their projects that is going to be reforest piece that is going to be related to the Amazonic area. All right, good morning. In the morning, Manuel Soto, I'm economist, and I have been working in the sustainable development, and this is something related to the green action, and also something that is having a good impact in this moment. So the thing that we are going to do right now is restore for the peace, but also we are going to be restoring the memory to the people, just to show how we can use the trees in a better way. We are working with different kind of indigenous, and they are going to generate some of the benefits. Actually, I'll say that we are one of the first one with this module of business, and the thing that we are trying to do is empower these people in order to mitigate the climate change, and preserving the nature, and also that's gonna give us a better benefit to the society. So we are trying to get people who want to invest in our project. We have more than 10 years working in this kind of industries. We have in this area, we have really big treasure, trees, species and animals. Also, we have been working in 15 departments, like in different areas, important areas, and we have recovered also some species, and now these species are safe with us. Those are some of the companies which we have been working with, just to show you the companies with the ones we have been working with, and important companies here in Colombia. What is the problem here? We are talking about deforestation. These are some maps about how the armed conflict, for example, everything related with the coca and the deforestation, this has been impacting in a negative way everything. This is a picture in Putumayo. But anyway, we have the area in Putumayo where we are going to be uh, focusing this moment. So we got a really good potential that is going to be 4.4 million hectares to reforest, and also we can extend this place to the Latino American Amazonic area. And if we can also create or take the Gran Caribe one. So what's the resolution here? So we are going to be seeding some trees. These trees are going to capture carbon, and also we are going to be doing this through special strategies that we have been developing in some scales, and also just taking into account the conservation of some specific areas that are in danger of deforestation. And in that case, we are working with some native population, also with native species of trees like the coconut, pineapple, and obviously introducing the indigenous population. What are the things that we are looking for with this powerful idea that we have in this moment? We have more than 300 tons of carbon, and we are going to be working with the CCV that is going to give more value to this. Now, in this moment, this is going to be the first project of deforestation, and the thing that we are going to be making here is just generate 1 million of trees in this case, and basically in Putumayo there we have an extension, a huge extension of 30,000 hectares and more than that. And the community here have some partnerships with other important people in the sector. So in this case, the thing that we are going to do is going to be generate a project with a huge extension. So generally involve restore 2,500 hectares per million trees. The investment in this case is going to be 7.4 million euros, and that's how we can see how this investment works. But in 20 years we are going to have their return. It's going to be 7 cycles of 3 years of carbon credits, which are going to generate profitability to the to investor, in terms of long term. So obviously we are going to be taking care of the logistic things. We are going to plant the first 3, and a long time ago every single tree has a number, a geographic position, a cardex number, why was planted in this or that place, and obviously I want to mention a partnership which allow us to generate a high level of carbon, obviously with some ecological benefits. And for sure, the monitoring is going to be pretty important for all the stakeholders in this project. So how the business is, the return of the impact of the investment. So the rate here is going to be 4% in terms of euros, just taking into account how we are estimating the price of the carbon per ton. And this is an estimation, a Colombian estimation. I will say that is a good project because sometimes there are like the concentration of this is going to be 200%. The investor just invested and we pay with the carbon credit. Basically, that's like the lofted, and as you already know, you invest and obviously you are going to receive some earnings. It's really important that the community is going to be the one who takes 70 and 80% of the money of the business, and that flow between the 50 and 70 is affecting maybe the return of this investment. But anyway, you are going to be receiving an important amount. We are going to require a special vehicle for sure. Actually, we are using one important vehicle that has been helping us in order that the investors stay relaxed with the idea or stay working with us. And this is going to be related to a higher standard in terms of carbon. But anyway, you are going to be generating a better position of your bank in the international market. So this is the flow. This is a classic flow about the income we have to plant, we have to receive a lot of income, but in the year number 4, we are going to receive the benefits that we were organizing from the year number 2, but every 3 years we are going to generate a new carbon credit. So the first phase is going to start with this first cycle of income, but anyway we are just planting 1,000,000 of trees, and in that way we are going to be working in a project with several phases and also with important return of the money during 20 years. This is the team. We got a normal structure. We got obviously a strong component in terms of carbon market topics related to technology. We got people from Humboldt, people who we have been working with during several years. Obviously, we got defined terms related to governance, and the most important one is going to be our allies. For example, INFE, that is a partnership of Ecopetrol, and I'm going to talk about them in a better way. So in this case, they are a community. In this case, it's going to be Agropueblos. They got some engineers, and I will say that is going to be the connection, and that's how the project is working. As you can see, with drones, some satellite pictures, and estimation of the biological aspects, and we are gonna get a perfect perception about how we can capture from every single tree. The important topic is going to be the social safeguards. As you already know, they have terms related to the spirit and some kind of different rules. So we have to take these kind of aspects in order to improve the market, and also I'll say that during more than 1 year we have known how we can understand. We have 2 important funds. One is going to be one French and one Nordic. And basically, this is a unique opportunity to generate a rentability, a profitability in medium or long term. So, and just thank you very much. Thank you very much, Juan Manuel, for your presentation. Now, let's say welcome to Ecosystem Group with their project Ecosystem Treasure. Let's give the floor to Carlos Reina. Hello, good morning for everyone. First of all, my name is Carlos Reynoso. I'm the executive director. So I'm really happy with all the performance, the thing that you have been making here. I just want to say thank you for everyone. Our project Blue Treasure is about taking advantage of the processes and aspects of the ocean, where here we are going to see the problems, the investments, and all the things related to how it works. What is the project about? About the restoring phase of the ocean. The oceans are more than the 70% of the world. In our case, we cover the 30% of the world, and we haven't been worried about the 70% of the country, and is the first one who captured the oxygen in around the world, and this the ocean is going to be working, and is the only one who are able to regulate the temperature around the world, and this is reflected in the oceans, and they are totally forgotten. For the reason we are having the issues that we have at this moment, our project is about recovering and restore with some tools, some plants of the sea. I don't know if you know about these plants in the sea. They are the ones working in an important process, and through this guys we are going to develop some important products, and also we can develop some first fertilizers. We and for this we require $1 million. It's going to be only one investment. We got the experience with all the energies that we have been working on, and also we have a partner outside of the country who have been developing this kind of uh, strategies in England, China, and with them a really good partnership with that is going to be the Jorge Tadeo University, and they are part of our process. They gave us their investigations that they have been doing around the world. The problem here is the thing that you already know. The temperature is higher every single time. We have a focus in the cattle. But in this moment, the participant is going to be the algae. The methane is 22 times more dangerous than the CO, the carbon. And in this Australian company, they found that extracting this product, a chemistry product from an algae, we finished the issue about the methane. This is one of the elements which we are going to be using. The cattle contaminate more than whatever kind of vehicle, buses we don't contaminate like these kind of things do it. Another topic that we are going to be talking with is about the how we are going to be working in the ocean, how we can extract all the carbon, because we should finish these kind of things, because if not, we are going to be affected. The project is going to be create a sea farms that are going to be 100% sustainable, and this is going to be pretty useful. Uh-huh. And this is an important percentage of the water that we are consuming. We say that we consume the 2.8 water, and a big part of this is going to be consumed by us. And from here, we extract this specific product in order to develop the blue cosmetics. And that's one of the new technologies that the university has, different to the things that I said before. As you already know, how important is the carbon module. This is a project that just started, but it's pretty important because if you have some carbon bonus above the 30% of the planet, imagine what you can do with the blue bonus. These are an organization about how the marine algae are organizing. This is not a specific place where we are going to be seeing some crabs, fishes, and all is going to be embedded. The process here, as you can see here, we have the implementation plan, as you can see about the products, the market that we have, etc. The things that we have developed is going to be the investigation, obviously the communities which we are working with, obviously vulnerable communities, because you know that all the communities in the Caribbean are vulnerable. They only live through the fishing and the touristic industry. Also, we have developed all the tests in terms of concept, and we are in the first phase about the permissions that we need for it, and then we are going to jump to the commercial phase in terms of finish this part, and then we can start working in the commercial period. About the 3 cycle that we are going to be working is going to be Rosario Island. People sometimes just go there to go and visit this place. La Raya, this is a community that is really poor. We already have the permissions for working with this, and they are only waiting just to start the project. And Tierra Bromba, that is another island that is in front of Cartagena, and these native people only live through the touristic industry, because every single sustainable project should have an economical sustainability. So in that way, we are going to give benefits, and we are going to be promoting this kind of cosmetics. And all of this is going to be developed by the University Jorge Tadeo Lozano. They gave us the formulas, and here we made the investigation, and we are going to commercialize them. And now these are some investigations that we have made here in the domestic areas, in international parts, but that's the consumption that probably you are going to have in terms of the cattle. We think that every single cattle are going to consume 45 package of the supplements. Some of the people is consuming sunscreen, also 6 units. Obviously, the anti-acne or anti-aging products, and we think that approximately is going to be 135,000 products. We have 40,000, 20,000 in every single product. This is only taking into account 30 cows of 29,000 million of cows that we have here in Colombia, and we are only using 3,000, and the potential units are going to be 1,300 millions, which can consume this kind of things. We are only taking here from 6,800,000 people, between men and women, of 50 million of population that we have here in Colombia, and we can do this during.
These are some statistics of the market that we have. We have 37.8 millions of USD that we have in terms of algae, and we hope that it's going to increase in 10.8% to 2028. Then the cosmetic market, we have 28.5 in 23, and we went to have it in 0.01. And in the cosmetic market, we wanted to grow at the profitable revenue of 4.1 during the forecasting period 2020-2025. So everything that has to do with skincare has been key, and this is what we're working on. So let's say the small brands represented 10% of the market. These are some of the brands that are working with us worldwide. So in terms of supplements, we have Sea Forest, then we have CH4, that is an Australian company as well, based in California, and then we have Symbrosia, who are just some amazing girls in Hawaii that are working with sheep, because everything that has to do with the sheep industry, it is also very important, and they have a similar kind of digestive system to cows. So we have also some other cosmetic firms that are not in Latin America but in Europe only. And now how we're doing, we're working like in terms of our business plan, it has to do, it's very similar to what you have done. But here we have social media influencers, website, and pharmacy stores, and also associations. So we try to promote everything through there. And then, for example, we did the same thing with the cannabinoid products in the same way that we have been working, and that's why we have invested about $75,000 US dollars. So these are figures. I want to present you some of our figures, having in mind that the small cosmetic firms represent 10% of the welfare market, and having in mind that it has represented an increase of 10% yearly since 2017. We have amounted 10.200 millions of dollars is aimed back in 2023. So here we can see some specific percentages in terms of our figures. We can see the operational costs that amounted to 50% and the rest. Now, in that sense, our cash flow, we want to develop, let's say, from 3 to 6 months, we want to have the specific drafting, and then we want to have the specific sales. And then after those initial 6 months, we want to have a specific sales rate that are going to go from $3 million up to $5 million. We need to have a million USD, $1 million, and this is only for infrastructure, operations, production, marketing, and sales. And here we want to offer together with the investors, we want to be 70% in terms of debt, and it is going to be paid in a time life of 2 to 5 years with an interest rate of 24%, and then 30% is going to be equal to our equity. This is our valuation. So here we have our $1 million. Here we have the revenues that are going to start from the second year, and the return rate is going to be up to 2 years, because this business is very interesting. It's very appealing in the market. So this is our work team. So here we have Mr. Mohammed, who's got a lot of experience from different parts of the world. He's been working in Australia, but also in India. Then Juan Camilo has got also a lot of experience in sales in Latin America, and he's got some hotels. And then we have Gladys Rosa. She's our chief scientific officer from Jorge Tadeo Lozano University, and we have many other scientists that are helping us out in this medical team of the scientific team. And then we have Michael, who's our Chief of Growth and Finance Officer. So we want to actually call upon the importance of taking care of our environment, and thinking about something that no one or not many people think about, which is the ocean. But the world is switching their view there. So our ocean represents 70% of our planet. So help us out getting there by means of a good investment. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Carlos. Now I would like to welcome our team from Genesis Lema with the agricultural production of water, of restorative water. So now the floor is open for Jose Maria Castillo. All the ones that are here, I'm sure I can say this with complete certainty. We are betting on the sustainable development of this country, of Colombia, from different perspectives or different standpoints. So, having that in mind, we, Genesis Lema, want to impact the rural sector of Colombia by producing high quality biomass to support the agricultural production that is organic, restorative, and sustainable. By using an aquatic plant that is called lema, that is small but of great benefit. So let us see what this giant brings along. So first of all, this is a superfood for human and animal feed because it's got amino acids, vitamins such as vitamin B12, and a number of proteins that is comparable to to the soybeans. And on top of that, it is going to consume 90% less of the soy crops, and it has also got the capacity of producing more protein than soy in a ratio of 1 to 10. And this happens because this plant, lemna, multiplies its biomass every 24 hours, and this is only comparable to algae. And worldwide research and development and the escalation of this plant of Lebna has been deeply boosted, especially in the United States, Europe, and Asia. And an important example of this, it has to do with what the support system to innovation, science, and technology is doing in terms of, and also together with the agro-industrial sector of the United Kingdom that is trying to take out the dependence on soy worldwide with this gigantic tiny plant. And in that sense, it also has an important capture of CO2 that is very similar to many other mitigation strategies. So Genesis Levna is a company that is going to be constituted this year, and it is going to be working together with another company that is called Agrícola El Naranjal, or the agricultural company El Naranjal, that works with organic agriculture and is already certified by the western part of our country. In our team, we have Andres Eder, who's got 40 years of experience in regenerative organic regenerative agriculture, and he's also a professor and researcher in multiple higher education institutions, and I myself has got 15 years of experience specific to the research on lemna and 31 years in experience in environmental management and also higher education. But what's the problem? I don't know if you knew this, but in Colombia we have an important obstacle in terms of prices and availability of balanced feed for fish, cow, and other industries. And this is due to that 90% of the raw material that is used in order to produce this feed is important, especially soy and corn that are coming from Argentina, Brazil, and the United States. And this is creating a negative impact to small and medium producers of the country, where the total expenses that are going to be represented in 65 to 70% of the cost for this animal feed. And worldwide, they are the biggest contributors for the greenhouse gas effect gases that we have worldwide. So how do we want to tackle this issue? First of all, we want to have animal feed that is rich in proteins, that is not genetically modified and that it's organically produced. Second of all, we want to offer the cattle producers a balanced animal feed that is high quality with with low costs. So in that sense, we want to produce between 15 to 20. We want to decrease between 15 to 20% the expenses of those rural producers. On top of that, the great potential of CO2 capture that Levna has got is amazing, and this becomes a climate, and let's say a smart climate project that is going to work together with some other producers, for example, fish or pork farmers. So we are going to impact them for them not to become only more productive and more competitive, but we're also going to improve their life quality. And then we are going to have this gender approach, let's say, focusing on women. And then we are going to substitute the soy and corn import to our country by using Levna. So our project is a twofold project. So first of all, we have, thanks to this partner that we're going to be working with, we are going to be using their experience in terms of their compost or the way that they're going to be using all of this. We're going to be using this at the hydroponic level, and in such way we are going to use all of these as organic fertilizers. And for example, here in that sense, it is important to mention that corn can give you 6% of protein, but with this forage that we have here, it is very high, and it has got a direct effect on the way that they can digest this feed. So in that sense, we are going to have a 10% in decrease of the methane gas. So in that sense, all of this is going to be used in that way that we are going to create some circular economy. And then the second component of this project is to use this Levna to dehydrate it, and then we are going to palletize it, and it is going to be used for animal feed or animal concentrate. So we are going to be working with fish and at the same time with the pork industry. What are the co-benefits of this gigantic tiny plant? So first of all, I told you that it's got an important rate of carbon capture. So here, between 60 to 130 tons by hectare in a year. So this is, let's say, much higher in comparison to a forest. So let's say the rate depends on the specific conditions and the specific species that we're going to be working with. At the same time, with the productive chain that we are going to create here, we are going to manage to impact the economy of small and medium producers by decreasing the costs, but we're also going to have these technical transfers so they can actually start producing Levna as well. And we also have an agricultural model that is regenerative and that is also climatically smart, and we do this on purpose. And we do this under the two lines of work that we have. We also have a low hydric footprint because this is a hydroponic crop. We are going to recycle the water, and then we have a minimum restoration of it because of the coverage of Levna. Then we're going to avoid deforestation because we're competing this negative impact because we're producing more protein by hectare in comparison to some other crops such as soy. And then we have one of our lines of work is that we are going to create our research center in order to create these knowledge transfers so we can work with small and medium producers. Okay, so now the market size. Colombia produces 10.4 millions of tons of animal feed that is represented in $3,000 million. So we are going to be working only with the fish production or fish farming that is 600,000 of this animal feed a year. And given our location, our, let's say, our location in Meta, we are going to be working with the second fish producer in the country. The first one is Willa, and the second one is Meta. So we are going to be working there. We have 1,900 fish farmers in this territory that we're working in. We're we're asking for 2.3 millions of dollars. As you can see, we have very good indicators. So we have this at a tier of 25.01%. And and we want this funding to be adopted in three different stages. The first stage with an amount of $130 million that is going to be used for the scaling reactor. Then the second one with $800,000 in order to have it, in order to take the to the lake number 2 to lake number 9. And then the third one that is going to be let's say within the Naranjal uh, farm, and in total we will have 29.98. So how to get started? First of all, we want to have a sub-grant for the first stage and to get to work with the seedling portion, and then we are going to have all of the scaling reactor. It is worth supporting this with $180,000. So we are going to be doing our part with all of our expertise and everything that we have got in terms of the land and the rest. So this is Genesis Levna, and we are producing this high quality biomass in order to support the agricultural and cattle production that is organic, restorative, and sustainable. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Jose Maria, for your intervention. Now I would like to welcome the Terrasan Group with their project the Environmental Technological Park, Terrasan. So let us welcome its CEO. Thank you very much. I'd like to thank all the attendees and all the participants. But that's not our presentation. Something's going on here. Just give me one sec. All right. Okay, so our environmental park from Grupo Terrasan, which is the arts of making everything organic. So you may think that we're going to be talking about waste, but that's not what it is. It has to do with raw material that the human animal is not taking care of, and they're let's say just wasting all of this in wastelands. So today we produce in Colombia 49% of what is wrongly called the inorganic waste and 51% of organic waste, and 14%, only 14% is being used for some other purposes. Colombia produces 33,000 tons of this sort of waste that is coming to the wasteland, and Bogota produces 70,000 tons of waste a day. So if we compare that to the blue whales, we are producing 80,300 blue whales a year that we are just digging in the ground, and Bogota produces 18,350 of these whales that we are just digging in our soil, in our wastelands. And here we have a worsening effect, that is that some 321 municipalities are going to close their operations in their wastelands, and we have a great percentage of our waters that are not being treated. And just like it was presented by our colleague from the ocean, of course this is going to end up in our oceans, and it is going to pollute those waters. But on top of that, we have a very serious problem with the erosion of our soil. The agricultural soils have been eroded in more than 60%. This is information information coming from the National Statistics Department in Colombia, DANE. And on top of that, the food that you and I are eating has lost its nutritional capacity in more than 80%. So that means that we cannot only talk about the, let's say, chips in a package and let's say this fast food, but as of today, we're producing, let's say, junk agriculture as well. In that sense, our project is focused, or here we can see what happens in order to get to the Mondoñedo wasteland, for example, coming from Zipaquirá, Tecancipa, and Cota. You can see how long they need to go through to this wasteland, which is the place where they are mandated to actually to do their waste management. And in Bogota, they need to go through the entire city to get to this Doña Juana wasteland that is whose concession is going to be done in 2026. So our environmental technological park, Terrasan, covers the northern part of the city, the central part of the city, and Almeidas as well as Tunja. In that sense, it is important to say that we're focused on those areas. However, it is to be replicated throughout the country. Colombia needs more than 300 operations such as this one. In this area, we produce 104,600 of tons of this solid waste and 43,200 of residual water that we are getting to our water sources. Today, we have the support of the National Development Plan, and there is another element that is important to mention right now that is actually going to be, let's say, launched these days, which is the national policy of zero waste that is going to be issued by the Ministry of Housing. And this comes together with a series of policies that are still pending to be implemented. But what's our business model like? So here we have some key clients that are going to be the generator of this waste, and then we have the consumers who are going to be consuming what we're going to be producing. So for those, let's say for those people who are producing this waste, we have a strategy because we're going to be working with the industry and commerce, and right now we are working with the domestic or with the housing sector. But now in the agricultural sector, we have more than 125 millions of dollars in the agricultural sector in terms of the use of agricultural inputs or chemical inputs that are the ones that are being used in this industry. Now, in terms of this service line, we transform and certify this waste. And here, in terms of what we have here, we are going to treat them and we are going to transform them, and that's the way that we are going to make our company to be sustainable. And then with this market size that we have is, let's say, is the pretty much the size of the area that we are going to be operating in. But let me remind you that this project is to be replicable in the rest of the country. So here we have more than 1 million of potential clients at the housing level or domestic level. And this is going to be producing 7,998,000 and $896 million a year. And what we want to have for the first year, having in mind this figure, here we can forecast it to more than $2,800,000. That represents 35% of this market that I told you about. And then in terms of the type of products that we are going to be working, we're going to be working in more than 50 million hectares in Colombia. Because as they told you, we have important issues and important problems to tackle in the Colombian agriculture, because they need this fertilizer, they need these organic fertilizers that are going to be coming from this solid waste. So in that way, we are going to have more than 750 tons of fertilizer a year. The estimate income is of $6,610 million with this business, with this product, with a total revenue of $9,450,000. And this is our process like. Here you can see what our process is like, and we're very proud of this because our company has created their own technology. So what you can see here in the green boxes is what we produce, and this is, let's say, this is our input. This is how people call it, garbage, or our waste, which is our raw material, and this is what we get out. These are some of our outcomes. So here we have, for example, cement packages, drywall, wood in order to create biochar and pellets. For example, in terms of pyrolysis, here we have pneumatics and some oils, pyrolytical oils that are going to be used in the industry. And in the inorganic branch, we also have the pellets in terms of plastic and some other sort of, let's say, multiple waste-based producers that are going to be introduced back in the industry. So this is kind of the city mining that we can actually implement here. Some of our benefits. So in terms of the environmental benefits, here on the left you can see some of the environmental benefits, and on the right you can see some of the social benefits. I'm sorry because here we have a mistake, but the capture potential is 7,000 tons of CO2 a year. So what are we looking for, or what's next? We want to have $6,933,000 for this project that are going to be allocated in equity, 49%, and then our debt, 51%, which are going to they're going to be allocated in terms of infrastructure, machinery and equipment, and then human talent. And then we have 5 years for the return of the investment. Then we have an extra year, and then an interest rate of 16.8%. And our project is aligned with the SDGs and with the green taxonomy. So here we have all these points where we believe we match the green taxonomy and the objectives, or let's say the final objectives of the SDGs. And so here we have the EBITDA of our project, and here we have our income in dollars that are forecasted for the next 20 years with a specific TIR of 45.68%. But who are we? Because you might be wondering who these people are. This is not just an idea, but we are the biggest transformational plant of solid waste in Colombia. We have a high positioning in the market, and we produce these fertilizers, the terrazan garden, and actually this is just some promotion for it. You can find it in home center. And then the granulate terrazan and the powdered terrazan that are, let's say, distributed straightforward to the producers, but we are also producing biochar. And for those of you who don't know what biochar is like what some people call the black gold of the agriculture. This was a discovery that was made by using the pyrolysis technique, and then the pyrolysis is a technique with no air to produce carbon. So it is not the wood-made carbon that we traditionally know, but this is a new kind of carbon. And then the pyrolytical oil are going to be reintroduced to the industry. So these technologies are technologies that we work on, that we already work on. So we are in Boyacá, Cundinamarca. We're based in Boyacá, Cundinamarca, not that far from Bogota. And now, let me tell you about the story of our company. So we have grown in average 38.5%, and with the agreements that we have entered into so far, we have an projected growth of 186%. These are some of the companies that have supported this odyssey that we started some time back. And we have had these acknowledgments, or these awards in 2022, 2023, and today we are nominated for what it's called to be the Environmental Nobel Prize for a second year in a row. We are pioneers because the superintendents of utilities granted us the first certificate for us to work with complementary utilities, and we managed to have the only certificate that ICA, the Colombian Agricultural Institute, has granted, because we have been using residual water and solid waste. This is part of our work team that is made up of more than 60 people. So this is who we are, and we hope you can invest in our company so we can continue growing. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jorge. And now let's say welcome to the last project. It's going to be the Scania Technology Company with his project like Center of Wastes and Energy in Villavicencio Meta. Good morning for everyone. My name is Carlos Sarmiento. I am the director of Scania Technology. This is a huge opportunity of investment. This is the integral center of advantages of the wastes and energy, and this is a really important company for the circular economy. All of these we have been receiving some support for companies like Siemens and its huge experience in terms of energetic topics, and also LG, who has a really huge experience, and they have been working and manufacturing more than 500,000 ovens, and this company that is going to be assisted by the technology and which we are going to be using in this company. LG Industry developed the strategy 4.0, which means that it's going to be zero emissions, zero carbon. And Innovation Corp, Canadian company, specialized in the development of policies and sustainable programs with special emphasis in minor groups. We have a big path in order to talk about wastes here in Colombia. Generates 30,000 wastes, solid wastes, and only the 17% of these ones we take advantage of the. So with based on this information, we have a huge opportunity here. Really important to highlight that all these kind of elements that we don't take advantage of it is going to get a landfill or places, open sky places, which increase the possibility or the risk of contamination of the water with the wastes, and also the generation of CO2, because the bad management of these wastes. One of these elements can contaminate it more than 500 liters of water, and this can generate more carbon in this case. What is our proposal in this case? Basically, we want to take 1,000 tons per day of wastes under a concept. We are not talking about only solid wastes, we are talking about other kind of wastes which are generating an important impact also. He have some examples of oils, wheels, and something that is pretty relevant and is a big worry is going to be the things related to the oil. and also we are going to be working with the support of the companies that I mentioned before. We are going to generate clean energy around 180 megawatts, and we recover 10 tons of recycled wastes, and we are generating 30 tons of additives for buildings. This project, from the beginning of his building, we have been working around 30 months. What are the goals that we have with here? We are impacting in a really important way the market. For example, CRA estimates that during the next 30 days we are mitigating 65 million of tons approximately. The restoring of the current landfill, how we can get it. So basically we incorporate these strategies or these wastes, the ones that we have under here in this area. And a giant number is going to be we mitigate the risk of contaminating 36,000 millions of liters. And what is the meaning of this in numbers that we can understand? This is the same if we put out 330,000 cars during the year, or we can stop using 241,000 liters. What other goal we are getting in this moment? CIADA is based on ambitious strategy testing, where we include an investment annual budget that is going to be $1 million for some specific strategies, activities like education, accessibility, protection, and mobilization, electric mobilization. Furthermore, pretty important is the generation of 100 new employees in a direct way, and in an indirect way we have more than 200 possible employees. How we can get it? Through two line of business. One is the based on clean energy generation, which are gonna help us to feed more than 540 homes, and that represents an important percentage. And this have an insurance that is going to be related with the companies. And this is gonna include the same fares that the users of the public services can pay, and also the income that we can have through the recyclables. And what we are supporting on is going to be on a unique technology, and it has a high efficiency, and besides we are not generating dangerous wastes. I think you have heard some specific elements which are going to be bad for the health when we are burning some wastes, which are going to be a huge problem. We got the approval of Siemens and BHE, and we are implementing this technology in Mexico. We are building two of them, and one of these projects help us to uh, duplicate it in Colombia, and we are saving costs and time. What do you need for it? We have 338 Campex, millions in this case for Campex, and what we are needing this, we are gonna need 136 millions for the generation of electricity, and the other is going to be for engineering. As you can see, the design of a break with all the traditional modules, which whatever person can wait where you put the garbage. The thing that we are thinking is that if we can help the community and the environment. What are the things that we have right now? We have $81 million, which came from one of the providers. In this case, it's going to be Siemens. And what we are looking for, we are looking for a minimum support. Is going to be 1%. And basically, this is a topic that you probably heard in the panel because we need to make some extra studies and some investigations, and we need the support for equity. We are offering 8% of equity with for a partnership who has some experience in this kind of industry, and we are requiring in a medium term with a financial way to pay around in 3 years, which include the coverage of this. We are projecting, or we are needing like an important amount of income, annually income, that is going to be around 90 USD millions in this project. Who who are part of this process? We have more than 40 years of experience in the development of 100 projects around the world in the management of wastes and also the generation of energy, the work with the water. Right, that's all I wanted to share. Thank you for being here, and I hope this was interesting for you and we can talk about this in whatever moment about the process. Thank you very much, Carlos, for your words, and also thank you for all the projects. Let's clap all the projects, the 6 projects that we have here. Just for making the closing, let's invite to Margarita Casas and Mrs. Velasquez for the words. Right, thank you very much to all of you for being here, to the ones who are connected, to all the actors who make this possible, especially to the experts who came here and who the ones who have been here during the last 3 cycles, and also for your attitude with the best energy, your ideas about projects just to receive financing support. In this case, thank you to 13 PWS, to the one that I represent, for all the performance that we have making during the last 3 cycles, and I want to invite to you, please try to get more information about the 6 projects that you heard today. In the web page you will get the information and also the contact of the people in charge of this project, and also you can get more information there about this, to the ones that you don't see here. And if you wanna present your project here to the accelerator in terms of climate cases, we are going to be a good support for those projects, the ones that we want here in the country. I just wanna say thank you to all of you, to all the partnerships for the United Kingdom who is working with us here. We are in the correct pathway, and we need all of you in this bus. We are really happy for being here, contributing to the country, and also we are going to be adding more value, and also we are going to be taking care of this house. I just want to say thank you. We are going to have a special activity at the end. We just need to take some information. Also, keep in mind the web page of the accelerator. This activity is going to be outside of the room. And thank you to all the people for making this possible. Have an amazing day. And now remember the pictures that we have for this closing.